What's the deal, everybody? Want to thank y'all for tuning into the Black Renaissance. Yeah, I know it's been a while since my last video, but I want to thank y'all for such a great response, man. I got a lot of love and a lot of feedback for that last video. If you haven't seen it already, definitely go and check it out. It was about my experience in Ghana. Can't remember the title, but I'll put a link to it. And definitely go and check that out. But what I want to talk about now is how my ancestors led me to Ghana and proof that they led me to Ghana. Now, a lot of people, we talk about our ancestors and how they affect our lives, but, it is very rare that you really get to see how your ancestors affect you and have, almost like proof that they are present with you at all times and definitely guiding you through life. So, when I went to Ghana, me and my wife, we had a lot of things that were happening while we were planning the trip where it was just working out in our favor. Every time something came up, like a roadblock, when I said, we would get down like, man, I don't know if this trip is going to happen, man, or costs started piling up and, just unexpected costs. And I swear every single time something like that happened, something good would then come out of it. And we would kind of like come out ahead or better than we anticipated or better than it was initially. So first example, when we were looking for flights, all the flights were around $1,100. So one night I'm up and I'm checking out the flights again, just, waiting for a change in the price. And again, the price was $1,100. So I'm kind of, scrolling through some of the flights, just kind of browsing, killing some time, I guess. And, I clicked on a link, went back to the main page, and all of a sudden, the price went from $1,100 to just over $700, like right before my eyes. Like to the point where I couldn't believe it. Like I thought, it was late at night, I'm half asleep. So I'm like, man, rubbing my eyes, like, I know I ain't tripping. Like, the price just changed right now. So I showed my phone to my wife. I'm like, man, look at this. That's $715. And she's like, yeah. So I was like, man, it gotta be a catch. So I'm scrolling, I'm looking, and man, it was no catch. The price had changed, dropped, around $400 right there before my eyes. So put out my credit card, jumped on it, got the ticket, you know what I'm saying? So that was like one of the first things because, $1,100 for a ticket, coming out of Texas, it's kind of average, kind of average price to get to Ghana. So to get a ticket for, just over $700, man, that was a big win. And so after that, like I said, a lot of different roadblocks kept coming up. They moved our flight, to an earlier time. I'm just like, okay, no big deal. We can make it happen. And then they changed the flight again to where, we were coming from Texas, going to New York, going to have like an hour and a half layover, and then flying straight to Ghana. Right? So they changed the flight to where we were going to get to New York with barely like maybe 45 minutes to make the connecting flight to Ghana. So initially I'm like, man, I don't know if this is going to happen. Like I've never been to JFK Airport, but I know it's one of the biggest airports in the world. It's pretty busy. So I'm like, man, I don't know if if we're going to be able to make this connection. But, it was still about 2 months out. So I said, we'll just keep an eye on it and hopefully, something will change. So maybe like a week before our flight, when I say they changed the flight again, but this time they made the flight earlier, which again was a big inconvenience because the airport we was flying out of, we was going to have to drive like 2.5, 3 hours to this airport. So, they changed the flight to an earlier flight, which is a big inconvenience. But this time, we were supposed to be going from Texas to Detroit, from Detroit to New York. And again, like I said, it was going to be like 40-minute layover. So at this point, I'm like, man, this ain't going to happen, So I'm calling the airline, trying to get it, worked out. But before I call the airline, I hop online to see, if there's any other flights. Turns out, so like I said, we were supposed to be flying out of a different city, from where we live at. It's about 2.5, 3 hours away. So I started looking at different airports in Texas, right? Because, it's nothing to drive 2, 3 hours here in Texas. We do it all the time, you know what I'm saying? So turns out, all of a sudden now, they have a flight leaving out of the city where we live at for the same price, but we were going to, fly from here to New York with, ample time to catch that flight, then from New York to Ghana. So I called the airline and I'm like, look, I'm telling them about the connection. They try to get me to run around like, oh, it's a legal connection. I'm like, come on now. Yeah, it may be a legal connection, but y'all know chances are I'm not going to get off that flight, assuming it gets there in time, run through that airport, have to go through the check again. That's how they do it at the airport in New York. You have to go through the check again, even though you're already in the airport, run across the airport, and get you this connecting flight in like 45 minutes. Like, come on, y'all know that's not going to happen. So I'm like, look, there's a flight coming out of the city where I live in that'll get there in time and get me to Ghana. So initially they're like, well, normally when we do changes, we only do changes at the same airport. We'll put you on a different flight, but we don't do changes from a different city. So, basically, long story short, worked with Magic, and they said, yeah, we'll put you on that flight. So, again, I got essentially a better flight because I don't have to drive 3 hours out of town to catch this, get on the airplane, and it's going to get there to New York, at an earlier time to where now I don't have to worry, you know what I'm saying? So that just was another win. Just saved a lot of time, saved a lot of money as far as gas, driving, all of that, okay? So when we get to Ghana, another thing that happened was on the, for the return, we were supposed to take, the COVID test, right? So the COVID test, to get a rapid test done was going to be like 450 CDs per person to get like the 12-hour results. Could have got a cheaper one to get, for 24-hour results, but I wanted the 12-hour result, so I know, if I had COVID or not, if by chance it did have COVID, that'll give me a little more time to, hopefully get something worked out so make sure I can get back home on time, so we go to take the test. Again, like I said, it's supposed to be 450 CDs each. The woman at the clinic charges us 450 CDs total. So at first when she gives us the bill, we're kind of looking at it like, maybe we're looking at this wrong. You know what I'm saying? So we're like, is this for both of us, right? And she's like, no, that's for both of y'all. We're like, this is 450 each, right? And she's like, no, that's 450 for both of y'all. So we kind of looked at each other, because clearly on their website it says 450, per person. But hey, we're not about to argue with you. So I'm like, okay, 450 for both of us. Here you go. And 450, CDs, for people who don't know, that's about $75 US. So essentially we saved $75 US. That's some good money, especially in Ghana. $75 US, essentially 450 CDs, man, and you could do a whole lot with. So that was one of the things. Another instance where it was like, man, everything on this trip is working out. Anytime we had a setback, we came out on top, right? So let me bring it full circle, okay? So we get back home, back to normal. Now, my family, me and a couple of my family members are really into family history and genealogy, right? So a couple of us have taken DNA tests. So, I've taken an ancestry test. I have family members who've taken Ancestry and 23andMe. So, my mother and my grandmother, they've taken, 23andMe tests. So, over the past year, I found ways to find African family members, right, through DNA testing. People who are, 100% African, born in Africa, or maybe their parents are off, born in Africa, maybe they migrated to the US, UK, wherever, but they've taken DNA tests and, you're able to, as an African American or another African in the diaspora, through DNA testing, you're able to find African family members, right? Which helps, to find, what ethnic group, tribe your family is from, okay? So a few weeks ago, like I said, we've been back from Ghana for a while, and now mind you, I've found, Ghanaian, DNA matches, distant cousins, prior to me even going to Ghana, right? So I know I have Ghanaian Ashanti heritage, right? So, a few weeks ago, my mother and my grandmother have a DNA match that pops up for a woman whose last name is Asante. So I know that that's she's most likely Ghanaian. So I look at her, pull up her profile, check her out. She's Ghanaian. She lives in the UK. And just looking at some of her family information that she has on there, and she says that her ancestral family name is Danso, which is Danso. Okay. So for all of y'all who have watched my last video about my trip to Ghana, you'll know that during the trip, me and my wife participated in an Ashanti naming ceremony. We were in, Kumasi, in Aromasi to be exact, in the Ashanti region. We participated in a naming ceremony where they gave both of us names, right? Our first name, of course, would be what they call your soul name, which is based on the day of the week that you're born. And your last name, they had like maybe 5 or 6 pre-selected last names, right? And the way that they would pick your last name, the names belong to well-respected people from their community, historic families from their community who did a lot for the community. So they would kind of just randomly pick you one of those names for your family name, right? For your last name. So, like I said, found a DNA match. Her last name, she said her ancestral family name was Danso. So, like I said, if you've watched my previous video, you will know that the Ashanti name that I received was Akwesi Danso, right? Akwesi Danso, the same name, the same family name that belongs to this woman that was a DNA match for. Now, when I saw this, when I say I sat there in a state of shock, like I had to, it's one of those things where you kind of refresh the page and you rub your eyes, and you're like, man, am I, really seeing what I think I'm seeing? Like, this woman that I'm a DNA match for at like maybe a 5th cousin, which isn't that far back, maybe 200 years. Her family name just happens to be the same family name that they gave me, that they restored to me when I went to Ghana. And like I said, I don't know what more proof anyone needs that you are guided by your ancestors. Well, I definitely was guided by my ancestors when I took this trip to Ghana. And when I told all of my family members this story, everyone was in shock. I told my homeboy who in Ghana, who was our tour guide, the story. And he was in shock. And he said the same thing, that, man, you were definitely guided by your ancestors. The first thing he said was like, man, this should be in a book. He was in shock himself. As a Ghanaian, he was in shock, like, wow. And, that's one of those things, man. Everybody get in tune with your ancestors, man. Your ancestors really do follow you. They really do watch after you. And they are definitely with you throughout life. So if you like this video, man, hit the thumbs up, share it, like it. Let me know what you think about the story. And until next time,